Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last Jenkins Online Meetup of 2018. I'm Liam Newman, your host. We have a really exciting presentation today from Baptiste, and we have several other people on the line who have also worked on Java 11 support, which is now in preview for Jenkins. Let's see, we have Mark Waite, Oleg Neneshev, and Adrian, I don't know your last name, sorry.
Le Charpentier.
I couldn't pronounce that anyways right now. And sorry, Ramon.
Hello.
Welcome. And all right, Baptiste, why don't you tell us about this?
Yeah, thank you, William. So I'm going to spend the next hour, we are going to spend the next hour together to discuss and to explain where we are and where we come from about the support for Java 11, running Jenkins on Java 11. And so what we've gone through in the last year, I would say. So let's dig into this right away. So the agenda for today is going to be, we're going to make an overview of the status of the support currently. Then we will explain how to run Jenkins. There are a variety of ways to do that. We will cover some. We will explain actually how to find and where they are documented. We will then explain what's missing to go to basically GA, and then we'll explain how to actually contribute, because this is the gist for today. We want to explain what's the status and what people can do to report bugs so that we reach the GA state at some point. So how to ask a question during this presentation? Please use the Gitter chat for the so-called platform-sig, SIG meaning Special Interest Group, which is the overall platform where we generally discuss platform related things in the Jenkins community. This very presentation you're seeing right now is available by the second link, so feel free to open it so that you can actually click the links and everything, because I'm going to open some, but I won't be opening every single links we will be seeing. So the presentation is designed for the audience to be able to use it to open and dig into things during or after the presentation, right? So I was explaining just before what was the platform SIG. There's so we welcome basically people. This is an open source sub-project, I would say, of the Jenkins project, and anyone interested in those areas is welcome to participate. So what about Jenkins running on Java 11? What's the current status? I'm going to go back a bit to the last year, as I was saying, roughly. So the first experiment started roughly after Jenkins World 2017 in San Francisco, where we started playing with, we're seeing how Jenkins would behave on Java 11. Java 9, sorry, back then. And then there were a few other initiatives, and the biggest one occurred in June. That was led mainly by Oleg Neneshev, present here, and who's been doing, no one can deny it, the heavy lifting of all those changes, but many people participated and are really welcome, and we're thank them for this. So it was organized in June, and huge efforts was made and progress was made back then to move forward and reach the state we know and we are going to discuss today. In June, so we were able to actually make the pipeline work. There were many improvements, and so the week long hackathon ended up producing a lot of interesting results, which we built on to reach the state of today. So we at some point reached the Java 10 and Java 11 EA preview availability on Jenkins, but the state right now is that, so we are going to discuss that a bit later. We will answer questions if there are, but basically the summary is that we only support Java 11 or Java 8. We don't support any version in between or above that as it is now. So Java 8 or Java 11. We don't support Java 9, Java 10, and Java 12 yet, at least. So summarizing, this is what we went through, and this is where we are right now. We are right now announcing basically the fact that we are reaching the preview availability for Jenkins running on Java 11, which is summarized here. And so the goal, the next stage is going to be indeed reaching GA in the next month without, for now, committing to any precise date. We hope it might be around May or something, but there's no confirmation as of now because it will really depend on how much testing we are able to put in, how many issues we discover along the way. Even if we already tested a lot, we obviously need to test more because there are, like, as you know, 1,500 plugins in the Jenkins community. So we need to obviously feedback and people willing to contribute testing in, I would say, less mainstream plugins and many other areas. Is there any questions before I move forward? And am I still online, incidentally?
You are still online. Continue.
Yeah, thank you. So,
I'm monitoring the chat, so if there are any questions, I'll pass them.
I mean, we shouldn't be shy, I think, about trying to address questions as they come through. Maybe we can delay some if they make sense at the end, but I'm not. That's really not an issue if we want to progressively address some questions that might be really if you feel the right time to address them. I mean, yeah, no issue about that.
We're here
So I'm
for you,
going
man.
to. Sorry, what?
We're here for you.
Okay, great. So pipeline support. This was probably one of the main issues that we had to get to tackle, and so I wouldn't say it's solved definitely right now. It's still being worked on by the pipeline team, but we now have at least a fix that's kind of a temporary fix for Java 11 specifically. The pipeline team is still working on a long-term fix for allowing pipeline to run on Java 11. It does work right now, but the code base is going to evolve still a bit to support and to be tested a bit more with how it was done until now, basically. A lot of things were worked on around Java 11 support in Jenkins, because as you might imagine, there's Jenkins per se, but there's a whole lot of tools around Jenkins that we use for testing Jenkins itself. So for instance, Jenkins Test Harness, what you call ATH, the PCT, those tools have been needed a lot of improvements and fixes to be able to support testing with Java 11, for instance. Now, before we were supporting only Java 8 and ATH, which basically is a Selenium-based framework, I would say, not from framework, but test base for Jenkins, and it was designed because of historical reasons and mainly worked and tested on Java 8 for obvious reasons, because we were supporting and only having Java 8 as a target. And so we had to evolve a lot of things and discover also a lot of issues to run, just to be able to just run things with Java 11. So we fixed basically the dev. We spent a lot of time in last weeks mainly also fixing things in the dev tools mainly. And so we can also announce the last bullet point on this slide is that, so since a few weeks now, we are constantly checking that the core of Jenkins keeps working and keeps tests don't fail, also on not only Java 8, but also Java 11.
Yeah, actually a few months by now. But yeah, we continuously improve the flow, and there are still steps to adopt, for example, acceptance test harness with Java 11. But yeah, we are moving forward.
And we recently changed ATH to support Java 11, as I was saying. And so we're seeing a few issues here and there that we are working on fixing, basically. And yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Oleg. So how to run Java on Jenkins on Java 11? There are a few ways. The hard ways, I'm not going to describe too much. I'm going to just open different Windows basically, but the official way is to use the JDK11. So warning here, if I didn't say that clearly before, I'm going to say that again. It's a preview, so it's not production ready. It's encouraged to test in your test environments, because we really warmly welcome feedback, but it's not production ready. We do know that there are a few incompatibilities, issues here and there. Most of them are probably already known about, but yeah, important warning. Apart from that, the good thing about Docker images is that you don't have to bother with passing the right arguments to be able to run Jenkins on Java 11, because as we probably are going to have a quick look at, it's not simple at all. If you try to run the war, it's not the same story. Quick look at it. If you want to see a demo about that, there's a specific link in the slides that you were given the links, the link of in that slide. There's a demo on how it works, but basically you can leverage the project called Evergreen, presented also at Jenkins World so a few weeks ago. And Adrien, present in the call right now, made a quick demo of how the Evergreen has been added a new flavor to actually be able to run Java 11 out of the box for anyone very easily. So that's the single command you have to run, and then it's Evergreen as usual to be able to run a Java 11 based version of Jenkins. And so the harder version, I'm going to open the link here, because that's a very thorough article that Oleg wrote a few days ago about running the whole story about Java 11. So if you want to run the war, it's going to be, you will have to basically download and put those things on the disk, then pass the class path the right way, then pass the right options, the enables future Java. So yeah, that's not that hard, but it's a bit complex compared to running the Docker image, where we actually fix that for you. Any question?
No, just a strong and compelling vote. Use Docker.
Yeah, way easier.
Yes, because Docker, so I didn't even document that because, I mean, well, I did kind of, but yeah, that's just the official way of running things. The only thing that's changing here, if you're not noticing it, is that we just use that, which is a label, but it could be also, if we just have a look at this.
There is a question from Stephen Clark, if the future general availability of Jenkins is going to support JDK 8 or just JDK 11. I answered.
That depends what it is meant, but I'm going to cover, I hope, everything in that regard. For now, there are no plans to change the Jenkins core to be able to support building on JDK 11, but we definitely plan to support running on Java 11 VMs, because that's the point of what we're talking about right now. In the near future, by near I mean something like 6 months or less. But yes, again, I'm not going to commit yet to any kind of precise date for now. But we welcome feedback, because the more we get contribution, the more we get feedback, the sooner we will be able to announce a version that is officially supporting Java 11, basically. Because then, in the core of Jenkins, there are a few switches that we actually need to change and to fix to remove the fact, because right now, if you run Jenkins on Java 11, you might have seen that in the article, you have to pass that switch. Because if you don't, then it will crash, or it will stop more if you don't use Java 8, because it's explicitly hard-coded that we only support Java 8, because we know there are a few issues with other versions. And in the past, people would update without us actually supporting some given version. So now it's enforced, and when we support something, we explicitly add the support, and then you can use it. So if in the future we want Java 11 to not, be blocked by that switch, that's the point. And we do plan to support Java 11 for runtime in the future, if that was the question.
It was also noting that there is no plan to deprecate Java 8 support. So in whatever near future, we don't plan to deprecate Java 8 support as WAR files. There is no plan to change the default Java in Docker images. So if you run Jenkins latest, it will stay on Java 8 in foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe something will change maybe in 3 years or so when we have
exactly.
more CSS releases and when Java 11 is widely adopted.
So it's okay then that the plugins are built with Java 8 and even desirable that they're built with Java 8. It's just that we're testing for runtime safety on Java 11.
Exactly, you get the point. I think that, by the way, I'm going to use your point to insist that we do not think and we encourage plugin developers to not release any plugin that is compiled against Java 11, because we do not plan to, as Oleg was saying, in the foreseeable future, to upgrade Jenkins core to require Jenkins Java 11 in the foreseeable future. It's going to be probably, obviously, will happen like in 3-4 years. I don't know, or maybe before, but not soon. That's for sure. Yeah. So if you don't want to cut yourself from the user base, if you release some plugin that's requiring Java 11, then you would already obviously be cutting yourself from a certain amount of instances out there that will be running Java 8, because, as you know, it's impossible to do that.
Yeah, we have some plan to offer filtering by Java version in update centers, but so far it's not implemented.
Yeah, and in addition to what Oleg was saying, you have to be aware as a plugin developer that right now Jenkins core has no idea what a minimum version of Java means. Meaning, if you release your plugin as a plugin developer or normal way, I would say nowadays, then a Jenkins instance out there running any free plugin is requiring Java 11. A Jenkins instance nowadays running 8 would see that plugin, no issue, would be able to download, install it, restart, and it would crash. So there's probably a few doubts or debates. We should check if it would crash your whole instance or if only the plugin would fail. But probably you don't want to try either. So
in short, don't do it.
Exactly. You get the point.
You can just cannot do it right now, but yeah, we are upgrading our plugin POMs.
Yeah, but again, so there's two things here. We are talking about two types of users here. We do welcome people to hack on it and try things and to see how it works. That's pretty welcome, and crashing things are actually the kind of the thing we welcome, and understanding what crashes Jenkins and what does not. So that's something that's kind of contribution. If you want to try things and your goal is to make sure nothing crashes, then that's another story. And then you don't want to install things that's been compiled or released or encourage that crashing, basically. So we were around here. I think basically we anyway started to discuss what we want to cover here in terms of content. It's because we want to make sure we are clear about the fact that this is the stage, probably even more than before, where we welcome contributions, because we have been testing a lot, we have been fixing a lot of things, we are using it in some cases, in many areas, and so we need to start some kind of real-world battle testing, checking that things work in more exotic use cases or in less mainstream plugins. If you have a plugin that are installed, is installed like a few hundreds of times across the world, given the statistics, then if you're a user of that, it's likely a very good idea to give it a try, because then, if you don't, when we reach the state where Java 11 is announced at GA, then and for some reason you are required by your IT or something to migrate your Jenkins to Java 11, that plugin might crash and you might not be able to update. So that might be a more or less issue, bigger issue for your case. So it's basically rather sooner than later. So now is a good time for that. How to test and report issues. So kind of testing, I kind of already gave you the right links, the right entry points to be able to run Jenkins, to run Jenkins. So how to report and to look for existing issues in Jenkins. So we created a dedicated page in the wiki, known as you can see, and in the bottom of it, you can see that there's going to be an auto-populating list of JIRAs that are actually populated by the fact that any JIRA that's found in the Jenkins tracker that's got the Java 11-compatibility label is going to be displayed here. And so, as you can see, by the way, there's so we welcome, by the way, any kind of text or whatever notes here, definitely. But if you have a very well described and you want to contribute even better, we probably welcome even more issues that are filed the right way with the right label, the right component, that we can try-edge, link things together. And so here it would appear here, and we would then try-edge it and try to see what we can do and what's the urgency and everything. So that's probably the entry point you want to use when you're contributing some time, some effort, some energy to testing Jenkins and Java 11. This is where you would go to report and to see how to report issues. Also, I think we can say safely that you would be welcome to use, obviously, I think, it's open here, the platform-sig chat, because this is where people are more alive and discussing issues, or that maybe, you know, if something you have no idea how to file it, why, I mean, where, if this is really an issue, a known one or whatever, then this is the place to go. So now about non-incompatibilities. Right now, the Jenkins CI/Blue Ocean image is not adapted to Java 11. There are, to be honest, discussions about the fact that will it be ever adapted, but that's another story. But yeah, that's something we know about. So what is now what's now left kind of for the road to the J-level availability? There are a few blockers which are generally listed under that epic, but basically what we want to, like, I'm going kind of a repeat what I was saying like 5 minutes ago. We want testing. We want more feedback. We want people to contribute some testing time, ideally. And so we already know a few issues. For instance, that one was the one about pipeline support issue, which is now fixed for Java 11, but it's kind of a temporary fix, and the long-term fix is still going to be is still being worked on. This is the thing we discussed also a bit earlier about the fact that the core is currently unable. So Jenkins core now, if you send it a Java 11 compiled plugin, it's going to try and install it even if it's running Java 8. We and Oleg has been doing a lot of work around that. We did some already initial work so that actually now plugins are you can upgrade to the plugin POM, the plugin parent POM for plugins to be able to actually publish your metadata about the minimum version of Java you're requiring. And so now we publish that, and so now we need to close the loop by making sure Jenkins can consume that metadata and filter out the versions of the plugin that have been compiled for a version that is, you know, higher than the current runtime it's running with. After GA, obviously, there's going to be maintenance. There's going to be fixing fallouts. So we do encourage reports again. We will probably consider sooner rather sooner than later, adapting also tools like Evergreen, for instance. It might make sense at some point to switch automatically Evergreen users to run on Java 11, because this is, well, one of the places where it does make a lot of sense, because Evergreen is supposed to be always up to date. So upgrading Java itself is making a lot of sense there too. We probably will update also Jenkins X and Jenkins File Runner, but yeah, that's something for really more longer term, I would say. Not long term, but yeah, at least a few months. And then obviously questions, but yeah, it probably will make sense given the fact that, so if people are not aware yet, starting with Java 9, and it got clarified progressively, but basically now the JDK cadence, release cadence, is accelerating. So we are going to have, I think it's every 6 months, new version of Java, and an LTS every few versions. So I don't remember exactly the jumps each time, but basically we are going to see Java 12, Java 13, Java 14, Java 15 in less than 2 years. So this means that we are going to also probably think about how we test Jenkins, how we support Jenkins with new versions. And so, yeah, it would probably make sense to start at some point, but rather sooner than later, testing Jenkins on Java 12 and maybe the upcoming ones, like 13, basically. So summarizing the links and the interesting entry points. And I think now I'm going to just give back the mic, and we are going to try and address questions or comments, if any. And
well, so one question I have is, like, do you have any specific ways that you would like people to test, or just like load up Jenkins and use it? Like, what kind of things are you looking for?
I would say it's more the latter. Like, use Jenkins the way you're using Jenkins usually, and if it works, then great, that's already something. And by the way, you feel free to actually come back to us and say, well, I'm going to stop. No, I'm not going to stop sharing. If I need to show something, well, I would say, yeah, come back to us and say, I've tested my use case, like all my use case, and nothing ever failed. That's already something very cool and very interesting to know about. So, I mean, yeah, this is not going to be a Jira. Hey, I filed a Jira, I have an issue, nothing failed. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to know if actually you were unable to crush Jenkins, basically. So that's already something. But yeah, definitely use Jenkins the way you use Jenkins usually, and that's already exactly what we are waiting on, I think. I don't know what Oleg and other things, but that's already something, yeah.
Yeah, that's something we need, and we welcome everybody to submit your feedback in the platform-sig mailing list. If you open the blog post, there are guidelines about that, because this feedback will be really useful for us to plan the steps of testing. We want to cover a lot of plugins, but not all 1,500 ones. So for some cases, we still need to know about problem areas and how we would approach that. And every input from you will help us to organize the work properly. So yeah, there is Java 11 support team formed to maintain this effort, and yeah, any kind of inputs for us will be useful, so we can prioritize our work accordingly to the feedback.
I've been amazed at, with 180,000 installations, there are so many unique and distinct ways that people can use Jenkins. It's probable that any one of us on this meetup today is doing something novel that other people aren't. So any testing of Java 11 has a good probability of finding things that are both interesting and useful for others in the community and still serving your needs.
Exactly. That's the point. That's why we are doing this in the first place. We are trying to reach out to you, the Jenkins user community, because we really need people to, be sure, be more certain that we're not going to break user setups, basically.
Yeah, speaking of that, actually, so like this is a preview. Like you said, it's not ready for production.
Yeah.
Like in me, other people on the call can sort of talk to this as well after you. How not ready for production are we talking? Is it what, like, are you guys, you have a set of known issues. Do you still have, aside from those, what's your sense of, like, if I have a, you know, Jenkins, obviously I won't be using it in production, but like if I have a test instance, should I go ahead and throw it on there to see what happens?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and I think Oleg can talk even more about that, but I've been testing it a lot on my side, for instance, and I've basically, apart from the pipeline issue that we've been discussing a lot, and now is having a fix for it, I was never able to crash the instance for Java 11 reason, apart from known cases that should be fixed for you. So, yeah.
Now, the exception being that there are, you know, thousands of plugins, so. Like if you haven't touched, we wouldn't be able to touch all of them. So that's part of why we're asking. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, and
I think Oleg has been running Java 11 based instance for some time or so.
Yeah, I'm running my home server. It's totally not a production server, full disclaimer. But I've been running it on Java 10 since August, and then I switched to Java 11 as a part of DevOps Vault Jenkins Vault Hackathon. So now it runs on Java 11. I haven't seen any real issues, but yeah, I use only a subset of features. If you're aware about particular cases to test, actually all plugins which use external libraries, for example, to parse test reports, to do publishing to external services, it would be the top priority to try out, because these libraries may be not compatible with Java 11 on their own. And actually, the most of work we were doing over past months is getting upstream updates integrated and getting some changes delivered to upstream outside the Jenkins project. And yeah, if you are interested to test the plugins, maybe it would be the first area to focus on.
And Mark, you are the maintainer of the Git plugin. You just released a beta of the Git plugin and the Git client plugin, right?
Right. And
have you tried those on Jenkins 11?
I was running them. In fact, we had to run them on an early Java 11 version. It's no longer required. That's fixed now, but it's been running. It runs quite well. So I love Oleg's earlier description in an earlier conversation. Most Jenkins demonstrations on Java 11 are boring because they look just like Jenkins on Java 8.
Huh.
There isn't an awful lot of shock value there. There's an awful lot of testing we need to do, and there's an awful lot of validation and exploration that we need. But in terms of behavior, it behaves very, very well.
Yeah, that's the point that we had that discussion this morning. If we were going to do a demo, that's why we didn't do a demo today, because we thought it would be very boring indeed.
Yeah, I saw the slide and I'm like, oh right, you just scooted past that because it's like, well, here's Jenkins.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So we're also you said there's some pipeline limitations.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, that's not. I mean, from your user standpoint, there's nothing different, really. This is really a development issue that's going on to actually fix it the right way for long term. But the fix that you have right now for Java 11 specifically is working for Java 11. You can just not use that, and if you want, well, you're becoming a Jenkins developer. We welcome people in the Jenkins dev community. But if you try to, for instance, install the version that was listed here, basically the 3.0 alpha 3.0, it's called very specifically 3.0 Java 11 alpha 1, I think. If you try to, for instance, use that one on Java 8, then we cannot guarantee anything, right? But so that's why it's pretty, it's not backward compatible. There are a few issues around that. So that's why we are saying beware about that. But basically, if you just use it the normal way, you shouldn't expect any kind of special behavior coming from pipeline. We do know, for instance, that fix is going to make data coming from previous pipelines, fully or partly, I'm not absolutely sure, I'm not from the pipeline team, not backward compatible. So that means that you could be, for instance, not able, if you restart Java 8 running Jenkins instance with a running pipeline and you restart and run on Java 11, you might run into issues, right?
You will definitely run into issues if you do that.
Yeah, so that's a pretty specific case.
Let's see. Baptiste, could you minimize the video so that we're looking at the presentation still? Thanks.
So Baptiste, one of the questions that came to me was, what are the compatibility constraints with regard to servers and agents? So my understanding is that keep the JDK the same on the master and the agents always. That's whether Java 8 or Java 11, don't mix and match. Chaos will result if you do mix and match.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is actually already something that's the case. So right now you should already, I mean, right now this issue has progressively disappeared because we've been bumping the minimum requirement for Jenkins to Java 8 some time ago, since the 2.60.x LTS version, right? So now the issue kind of disappeared, but before it was an issue, meaning even before, and given how Jenkins architecture works, you must not ever make a Java agent, a Jenkins remoting Java agent, work on a version of the JDK that is different from the one on the master. So there are a few specifics about that, but basically, yes. For instance, to be more specific, you cannot run and you must not run because it will crash. And the bad thing about that is that it might work. It might start working and you will hit issues. You will have issues if you run, for instance, agents running Java 8 and the master running Java 11. You have to bump everything. So again, that doesn't mean that you cannot run any Java 8, 9, 10, 11 workload. That's something different. You can basically run whatever you want from Jenkins. We are really talking here about the thing needed and used for running Jenkins itself, not for running the builds, which is really something totally different.
Yeah,
we might. I think I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there is a Java support page on Jenkins.io website. So you can navigate to this page and find all the information how to run these things and how to. Well, it may be difficult to find it such way.
Yeah.
I always use Google to find it.
And I think it's more something like requirements, like this, something like this.
I will send the link in the platform chat.
It's admin/requirement/Java, but yeah, basically we link that from some places. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So one of the things potential users should be aware of, there is a Maven plugin around. And this Maven plugin, architecturally, it uses remoting to have communication between Jenkins master and running Maven instances. And it means that if you update to Java 11, you will have to build your plugins or your projects with Java 11 as well. So this is the only exception from common guideline that you can build your projects on different versions. If you use Maven plugin, you always have to use the same version as on Jenkins master. I pasted the link. Oh, yeah. It's just Maven dash plugin.
So there was one other question here. So if I'm running Jenkins on Java 8, can I do, and I want to run it on Java 11, can I just run even, let's say like I'm going to run that really complicated command line, but just use my existing instance, shut it down, spin it up in Java 11? Is that going to change anything, or can I just like spin it down again and bring it back up in Java 8? I mean, are any of the configuration files changed underneath the covers?
Yeah, somewhat. I would not recommend doing that. Well, depends. If you're able to copy your data to some test instance and do that, yeah, then definitely do it, because it's going to make a lot of sense. If you, obviously, that goes without saying, because it's we're saying not production ready. Don't do that on your production. I would say, even without talking about Java 11 bump, don't do that. I mean, do your upgrade testing separately from your production instance, obviously. But yeah,
but even if I have a staging Jenkins and I want to, I should treat this as though I were doing an upgrade that can't be reversed.
Somewhat, yeah.
So back it up.
Not just somewhat. I think you should treat it as a non-reversible. There are too many opportunities for failure in trying to go back from Java 8 or Java 11 to Java 8. just treated as non-reversible, Liam. The workflow plugin change, certainly other changes, Java's own changes. There are just too many things that are likely to break and going backwards.
I would say, Mark, anyway, treat any Jenkins upgrade as non-reversible. That's why it's teaching you with revert your setting and get back to something previous, basically. That's why we advise users to back up, basically.
Yeah, Jenkins downgrades should always happen through backups nowadays.
Okay, and I should treat this as an upgrade, not as something where I could do like I have a Docker image of one and then run a different Docker image using the same underlying folder sometimes in some versions. This is not one of those things. You should just do not overlap. Don't cross the streams. Got it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's really welcome, and if someone is willing to do that, we are definitely going to be welcoming this, but we probably need to document it. But it's going to mean switching if you're using Docker, it should be quite easy. If you're not, then it should be feasible too. But you have then to switch to use the right switches and everything. So yeah.
Let's for the sake of this discussion and this video, let's just advise people not to do that, because it sounds like you're like, maybe. It's like, no, let's just.
Well, I mean, if you're testing
if you're okay with it blowing up, then
exactly. I mean, if you're a testing environment and everything is ready to spawn from your production something that would be a testing environment, then that's definitely the place where you are freely and generally probably feel free and comfortable to play and break everything, because that's the place to break things, right? So. Yep.
This is the difference between devs talking and ops and test talking. We just have slightly different terms for things, right?
Yeah.
You're like, sure, go ahead, why not? And I'm like, oh God, no, don't do that. So,
yeah, that means, I mean, we are still, again, that's kind of wrap everything I'm saying inside this is not a production purpose release. And inside that concept, indeed, then you can say, okay, if you have a testing environment, then that makes sense to use that as kind of to try to use, leverage that to provide feedback upstream to the community of Jenkins community to actually help yourself not getting into issues later, basically.
Okay, cool.
So now, one of the things that was mentioned earlier in the slides is that there's no Blue Ocean image from the Docker image perspective. But can you confirm that Blue Ocean works and is worth testing in the Java 11 environment?
Yep. I mean, Oleg, I think feel free to go. Oleg.
I was about to comment on that, because actually we have Blue Ocean packaging. It's just not official Blue Ocean packaging due to some reasons. So you can follow the workaround, and it's also referenced from the blog post. It's a fully operational version of Blue Ocean on Java 11, and it also includes pipeline support patches. So one of the issues you may hit is when you update your instances, you have to update pipeline support plugin to the version Baptiste was referencing. In this image, everything is bundled. So once you run that, you get everything out of the box. And yeah, Blue Ocean is totally operational. So it's just a matter of time and of decision making when we offer Jenkins Blue Ocean image as official one.
Okay, so I can run my usual workflows, the things I'm doing, Blue Ocean, pipeline work, all those things in Java 11.
Exactly, and actually during the last hackathons, we spent a lot of time in exploratory testing. So we were doing things like job DSL, we were testing configuration as code plugin, we were testing even Maven integration plugin. Surprisingly, it worked on Java 11 without any issues. But yeah, we tested a lot of functionality on both Linux, Windows, and yeah, it works. If we talk about exotic platforms, then yeah, this is also an area where everybody participating here could try testing Jenkins, because yeah, we test only on the basic platforms. So if you have an access to whatever Java 11 setup, which uses, for example, ZFS or something like that, it would be really interesting to get information whether it works at all, because we didn't test it so far.
Great. And yeah, if you, by the way, I was thinking that you were talking about config as code. In Evergreen, we under the hood use config as code. So we can say for sure that after Adrian's demo and Adrian's work, that config as code on Java 11 does work. So obviously there's always dragons because we are not using every single thing, and this is not really config as code itself. It could be a plugin that's not compliant or whatever. But yeah, nothing surfaced in that regard there, for instance. So yeah, I think we are. We have still a bit of time, so we are still able to cover a bit of questions if there are.
So I've got one more. Can you give some hints of ways that issues or bugs manifest themselves when I'm running in Java 11 so that I know what to be watching? What are some of the places where we get common failures, and so I can look there?
Good question. So there is the obvious one. Well, if you see the angry Jenkins and or Jenkins is not even starting, then this is already something you want to report. So as we were saying, we don't expect that to happen, or maybe with some exotic plugins that might be doing something in the very early stages that would be crashing the whole thing. So might happen. Or I would say the other thing that springs to mind is that's kind of user facing. I would say in the build console itself, I think which you could be seeing some weird behavior there, or stack traces mainly. And the third, I would say, because we've seen a few of them, but we know about a lot of them, I think already, is the warnings and stack traces you could see from the Jenkins logs itself. For instance, there are a few logs already known about the fact that, starting with Java 9 and the modularization, and basically for Jenkins on Java 11, for instance, now in Java it's not allowed anymore kind of allowed anymore to use reflection. And Jenkins, like any Java app, has been using reflection a lot. And so we see big warnings coming from the metrics plugin and many plugins like this. But this has been made warning only since we actually started working and testing Jenkins. The Java team actually reverted that change to make that warning only. But yeah, we welcome any feedback in that regard. Obviously, so I think we didn't focus on that, but please, when you report an incompatibility, please, if you can try and spend a few seconds before filing a new one, if there's an existing one, so that you can maybe watch it or vote for it, something like this, so that we don't end up having a lot of duplicates if something is already known about, for instance. So here I'm going to take maybe that one, I don't know, I think it's a recent one. You can vote here, or you can, you're welcome to comment here, but please comment, obviously, if this is adding something, or feel free to, I don't know, add label or start working on it to fix it or whatever. But yeah, that's I think that's the thing. Is this kind of covering your question, or did I forget some aspects?
That was great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
So the Jenkins log file, job failures, looking for interesting exceptions, the angry Jenkins, all sound like great ways. Thanks.
So we're at 10 minutes left to go. What else you want to say here? I
think if there is any question, we are obviously happy to cover.
But you're good.
Well, so one question was, could I join the Java 11 support team? If so, how do I do that? That was one that there may be others who want to be part of helping us make Java 11 support better.
So I think as documented in the JEP, but I'm not going to require everyone to read the whole document. But this is basically joining the platform-sig. Not joining the platform-sig, sending an email to platform-sig, as Oleg was referring to earlier, and then it would be joining the Jenkins team.
Yeah.
Right. So most people who don't have admin access can't get to that team?
No, you need to be a member of Jenkins CI organization.
Yeah, so probably going to the platform-sig and asking someone to add you would be the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a team, a Jenkins CI org member, you probably just should be able to click join or request joining here.
So just to be clear, the Java 11 support team, this is a team founded mostly to do triage of defects, initial routing, etc. So it's a kind of bug triage team which kind of exists in Jenkins project, but focusing on Java 11 issues specifically. If you want to help, if you want to contribute, if you want to test that, we do not expect full commitment from anybody. You can just join our chats, have discussions there. And yeah, then if you want to deep dive in Java 11, of course, you're welcome to join this team.
Yeah, that's a great point, Oleg. I mean, anyone from 2 minutes to 2 years of commitment is fine. So we welcome any kind of contribution, obviously.
Right.
And even more than 2 years if you're free.
Yeah. And speaking of contributions, there is a platform special interest group meetings. The next meeting is scheduled to Thursday this week. It's something like 2 p.m. UTC. If you're a developer, if you want to know more about how to develop with Java 11, how to test with Java 11, you can just join this platform-sig meeting and we can discuss there. And if there is more need, we can set up sessions on demand in whatever time zones. So if you have questions, one of the purposes of Java 11 support team is to actually help others to adopt it, and we are here to help when it's needed.
Yep. Great. So that will be roughly 2 hours before the meeting, the starting of the meeting today, for mapping that to 2 time zones.
A little early for us Pacific time zone folks,
yeah.
But
a lot of Jenkins project meetings have been done, you know, at 8 or 9 p.m. here. So I guess it's fine to do that sometimes in the other way. But we can organize. As I think that was the point also of Oleg, is that we can organize more meetings as we need it. So yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So that's why we have special interest groups, and now we have much more flexibility about organizing events within Jenkins community.
I think we are mostly done. I don't want
to. I think we've covered all the questions that have come up online, and I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you, Baptiste, for presenting and fielding these questions. Oleg for leading, and everyone else in the call for participating. Does anyone else on the participants list here have anything they want to add? Or are you guys all good? Nope. Okay, great. Thank you very much. You can join us on IRC and on Gitter, and I'll add a link to the presentation to the YouTube description when we're done here. All right, thanks everyone.
Okay. Thanks, bye.
Thanks, bye.